Film is a medium that transports. All I have to do is pop myself in front of the TV to watch a movie, and I can just enjoy it, whatever place the film takes me to.
Movies have always been an escape. It gives you a whole new world to be in.
I have a rekindled love affair with movies.
Welcome everyone to this episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to talk movies. Joining me today is Paul Britton. Susan Chisholm will be out. And Paul, it's up to you and I to hold the fort down as we continue our journey here talking movies.
Yeah, that's we're gonna have to carry this one, and it's gonna be a heavy load. So
yeah. Absolutely, but we look forward to having Susan back as soon as she's able. And until then, we'll keep working through our topic today. Paul,
we'll do our best.
Is both movie review, but also a look back at the work of one Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy,
big time.
This past week saw the release of Coming to America, the number. The sequel to Coming to America from 1984, if my memory serves.
No, it's later than 84, my friend.
You're
thinking Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop was 84.
It would have been
Coming
89.
Coming to America was 88. Close.
88. Okay,
88.
Well, the year I graduated high school. Yeah, so let's just say it's 31 years, 30-some years in the process. Wow. Yeah. And so... we talked about reviewing the movie, but also taking a look back at the filmography of Eddie Murphy and just see what we found. So, yeah. Well, I have to ask you, Paul, what was your first exposure to Eddie Murphy? Because, of course, like me, you probably saw his comedy first as a comedian. Where did it all start for you?
So definitely, I remember him from Saturday Night Live. Like I definitely got exposed to Saturday Night Live, even as young as I was. My parents liked Saturday Night Live, and every once in a while I would get to stay up. So Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood was the thing that really stuck with me because I knew Mr. Rogers. And, Gumby didn't, it's funny now, like I know more about Gumby now. Like at the time I didn't really know Gumby, but like really, the intro was Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood.
Gotcha.
And then oh my God, his James Brown hot tub thing is just one of the greatest comedy sketches of all time. But like movie wise, like I would have been too young to have seen Trading Places and Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
But I didn't see them that much longer after the first movie I saw of his, The Golden Child, which I vaguely remember seeing on HBO or something. Like I don't even, but then I did see shortly thereafter Trading Places and Beverly Hills Cop, like, right basically at the same time, basically, via rentals, at around the time that Coming to America came out, slightly before then. Actually, no, it might have been right before Beverly Hills Cop 2 came out. I don't know.
Yeah.
In that general vicinity, because I do remember having seen Beverly Hills Cop before seeing Beverly Hills Cop 2 and actually going to see Beverly Hills Cop 2 in the theater. So Beverly Hills Cop 2 was the first one I saw in theaters.
It's surprising to think, because I look back at his filmography, that, I mean, for a movie like 48 Hours, which, we probably both know really well, I don't know how often we stop and realize this was 1982. And so his filmography goes, of course, way back, considering how long he's been working. But some of the material, film-wise, of course, that I was first exposed to was, of course, later than when it first came out, because like you, I wouldn't have been able to go to those movies, so to speak. But I remember the big hullabaloo that was made when he released Raw, the concert film.
Yes.
1987, same year as Beverly Hills Cop 2, as a matter of fact. So he'd already, his filmography had already produced some of his best films. I don't know about you, but I love 48 Hours. We've talked about Trading Places.
Mhm.
And then came Beverly Hills Cop in 1984.
Yeah, Beverly Hills Cop is my favorite of his. 48 Hours I saw much later. Like,
okay.
I didn't see 48 Hours until into the 90s probably.
Gotcha.
And probably appropriately so, considering, like I definitely, those movies that he made in the 80s were definitely geared toward adult audiences, but that was like, more so.
Yeah.
More so.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, geez, so I saw Beverly Hills Cop 2 in the theaters, and then I saw Coming to America theaters, and then I saw Harlem Nights in theaters. And it was just like boom, 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 and I remember Harlem Nights coming out and being like ridiculously excited because Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, are you freaking kidding me?
Sure.
And that was, look, that movie was an absolute event. And that was the first time that I was disappointed with Eddie Murphy. And I have a friend who like insists you have to watch it again, and I will. It's something that I wish I had done this week leading up. Yeah. But I do think I'll like it more now, just because I feel like I know what to expect this time. I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater. So
gotcha.
Whoa.
And now?
My light went out, but not my electricity. Let's fix that.
There we go.
There we go.
And we can see you once again. So no, and again, when we look at his early films, he starts what he tends to do over the course of his career. He'll have a couple of good hits, and then there's a miss. So as early as 1986, The Golden Child, which I enjoyed, was pretty much panned, by critics. But that's the thing. I don't think his work was ever anything that he didn't subject himself to the notion of like, I've got to please everybody. But when you get into the Beverly Hills Cop films, the sequels of which I enjoyed,
well, the second one.
Yeah.
You can't tell me you enjoyed the third one.
I mean, you have to remember, we're different in the sense that I can allow myself to get into this notion of like, well, it's a continuation of the same character. It's not anywhere near the first two. It's not anywhere near the first two.
I remember that was the same summer that City Slickers 2 came out. Mm-hmm. And that was just one of the first summers where it was like, okay, there's just a ton of sequels coming out this year. And just like leaving, like I think those two came out like week after week or pretty darn close to each other. And just leaving the theater like, wow, people need to stop making sequels, because if this is what you're going to do, just stop, because neither one of them were good.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is that's around the time we started seeing the whole notion of franchises, right?
Right.
And I think we've seen throughout most of history that you can very easily push a franchise too far. I don't know that I was seeing it on IMDb, but I want to say that I even saw something about a Beverly Hills Cop 4, and I'm like, stop, this doesn't need to happen, Yeah, and I don't think there needs to be a Coming 3 America. So, but we'll talk about that too. What did you think of movies like? Because Harlem Nights, you're right, event. Absolutely. I have to ask you though. 48 Hours, I loved. The sequel, Another 48 Hours. Again, it's the buddy cop kind of thing. Is it one you're familiar with? Did it hold up for you?
I haven't seen it. Okay, actually. I didn't see 48 Hours until even after Another 48 Hours came out.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I hadn't seen it, and I watched 48 Hours, and Another 48 Hours just was not well received. So if I remember correctly, and so I didn't bother.
Gotcha. Between 1994 and 2004, he has at least one movie, sometimes as many as 3, coming out year over year. 1994 gave us Beverly Hills Cop 2, Vampire in Brooklyn, 1995, which I found quite humorous.
Did you?
I mean, in that it was I didn't buy it. Meaning,
Okay.
it was what it was. He was,
Hmm.
I could do
Yeah.
without it.
Yes. Speaking
Surprisingly
of I can
enough,
do without it.
yeah,
Speaking of I can do without it, then he comes out with Nutty Professor in '96.
yeah,
Um, Metro in '97. More I can do without it.
right,
A year in '98 where he has 3 movies, 2 of which are huge. Mulan and Doctor Dolittle, and then
right,
Holy Man, which I have not seen.
and didn't do well. Same as
Okay,
1999, where Bowfinger was just a disaster.
Yeah, but Life has a life now.
It
Like
does.
Life, it has a following.
Yeah.
I saw that in theaters, and I like I hated Nutty Professor. Like
Okay.
hated it. Like just like what is this steaming pile of garbage? And Life, I did not feel that way. But I also I remember very little of it because
Yeah.
it just wasn't something that I ever felt like I ever needed to revisit.
Right.
But it's interesting because that's similar to Harlem Nights, where because it still has legs, I kind of feel like maybe I should check this out.
I was
Maybe I
thinking the
need to
same.
revisit it.
Yeah, because the cast is pretty phenomenal, and I remember enjoying it, but I've only seen it the one time. Of course, we first encountered him as Donkey in 2001 in Shrek,
Right.
and every other Shrek thing that has ever occurred, he's continued to be part of it.
God.
Yeah.
It's just he's like Weekend at Bernie's, more like recording session with Donkey. It's like just trotting this out over and
Over and over.
over and over and over and over and over, and it's just enough. Yes, we've heard him be Donkey. He married a dragon. It's not funny. Stop. Right. For the love of God, stop.
Well, someone thinks it has legs.
Yeah.
It's go ahead.
2002. Whew. All right, let's break this down. Showtime, which I haven't seen. The Adventures of Pluto Nash, which unfortunately I have seen. And I Spy, which literally because of Showtime, like I have not seen I Spy. Have you seen that one?
A long time ago, yeah. I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember much of it.
Okay.
Is that the one where he's with, is it Owen Wilson? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, and this is 2002, so, I was pretentious enough by this time. After watching Raw, the thought of Eddie Murphy reprising a role that was done by Bill Cosby, like, honestly made me angry at the time. Like,
gotcha.
You can't possibly be the guy that comes and says he's going to go and do a Bill Cosby role now.
Right.
Like, no, you can't do that. That's you've burnt the Bill Cosby bridge. He was way ahead of the curve on that. Good for him, for burning the Bill Cosby bridge. And I like Owen Wilson a lot. Like Owen Wilson is one of my favorites, and so the idea of Owen Wilson and Eddie Murphy together should work for me, but like the reviews on the movie were enough to keep me away. So
right. I remember watching Showtime simply for the fact that he was in it with Robert De Niro. He talks in interviews about how the only reason he took that film was because it was a chance to work with De Niro. And it was what it was. Again, Murphy has often been in a position where he ends up in a role or in a film that's, okay, now we get to see him with this person, but then the film doesn't live up, And so 2003, 2004, Daddy Daycare, The Haunted Mansion, Shrek 2.
Daddy Care, yeah. And by the way, huge Disney freak. The Haunted Mansion, can we please get a good Haunted Mansion movie? Please. Yeah.
I'm assuming that wasn't it.
No. No. Then Shrek 2. Then, so he takes a couple of years off. In 2004, Shrek 2. And then Dreamgirls. And then there's the light. This is the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, Dreamgirls was quite the production, and he really, again, when you look at his filmography, and then you see the reaction to the work he did in Dreamgirls being so huge,
Hmm.
Sometimes people think, was it a comeback? It's like, well, no, he's been doing films pretty consistently. It's just that
Yeah,
this was something that really
that people,
was,
yeah,
yeah, he brought everything
people
to it.
wanted to see. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, like this is a movie that people would actually want to go to a theater and see.
Yeah.
And he decided to follow that up with Norbit. So this is the problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
our problem with Eddie Murphy post, like, for me, it's post Mulan. Anything after Mulan, and it's just like, odds are very high I'm not going to like this movie if it has
And
Eddie Murphy in it.
and yet, I don't know if you feel the same, but I guess it's because in my head, when I think about him as an actor,
Yes.
I am pretty forgiving because some of these movies that are the missteps are so forgettable that until you do the deep dive like we did to prep for
Right.
the show, we're like, oh man, he's had some real like garbage movies.
Bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. I mean, I
Like,
remember Norbit coming out and everybody just going, what happened? Like, how does he
yeah.
come off of Dreamgirls to this? You know?
Right. And look, Nutty Professor. So and it ties to Norbit
Mhm.
because I don't think fat humor is all that funny.
Right.
Like when Laurel and Hardy were doing it, it was funny, okay, but that was probably the last time it was funny.
Yeah.
It's just not funny. It's just in general not funny.
Right. And that's
So,
how I felt about those movies.
right.
It was just a reliance upon, you can take a concept like the Nutty Professor, you know, and he turns it into something that's so much more about the humor that he likes to portray. And at the end of it, it's like, okay, well, I walk away from some of his comedies thinking I just didn't find that funny, you know,
Yeah.
and that tends to be the pattern I have with his work. Uh, I don't know how you felt about Tower Heist or if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Okay,
because but that's one that there's two movies of Eddie Murphy's that I haven't seen at this point that I want to see.
Yeah.
And Tower Heist is one of them.
I would encourage you to, because it's a great pairing with Ben Stiller. It's a heist film, and
I like that.
It hits the mark. It hits the marks.
Okay.
I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know, hey, you need this is, you have to. I just think you'll enjoy it, you know. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts once you do.
See, it's interesting. So it has Matthew Broderick in it, and
yes,
Matthew Broderick and Eddie Murphy. When I was like 15, 16, I would have seen any damn thing that they were in.
Sure.
Just anything. Anything. And they are two actors that have been in movies that just have completely disappointed me to an extreme level. That it's like, oh, Matthew Broderick, I loved you. And oh, Eddie Murphy, I loved you. And it's like, so I don't know.
Yeah. It's
tough. It's
tough. And I think about, golly, you know, I know I don't want to go down the rabbit trail of Matthew Broderick, but I agree.
Right.
So much of his work is like, oh, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. His seems like a misguided career, but we'll talk about him some other time.
Sure.
I'm not familiar with 2012's 1,000 Words, but Paul, I have to tell you that in 2016, the movie Mr. Church. Last night, as I was prepping for this, I wanted to bring something to our conversation.
Okay.
That would hopefully surprise you. In that, you know, here is a look into Sergio took a look into Eddie Murphy's career, found something that very few people would probably know about, and be ready to talk about it. And for about 15 minutes, I was like, hey, I think I've made a good choice here. Because the movie Mr. Church popped up. I don't know if the same algorithms that apply to Facebook and such apply to Prime, but all of a sudden, after watching, Coming to America, now everything on my screen is, hey, Eddie Murphy did this, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's a movie that it comes up, it's called Mr. Church. And I read the little teaser, and I was like, well, that sounds very different. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I am not. So,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm intrigued.
For about 20 minutes, I was ready to today come to you and say, oh my goodness, if you really want to see Eddie Murphy outside of his acting norm,
Yeah.
You gotta watch Mr. Church. But then it kept going, and I was
Oh,
like,
no.
okay, minus his performance, or you take his performance and minus everything else, and you're left with something I would want you to see, except that the movie continues, and it ends up being very trite.
Okay.
It's overly simple. His portrayal is enough to have gotten me through the whole film, but the story gets so predictable, and so
Oh.
he plays a guy who was uh and of course in hindsight it feels silly even about the premise. There's a woman and her daughter, and he has been hired to be their cook, and he's hired by the guy she was seeing, who it turns out he was married and this and that, and it just gets very heavy very quickly, because then you find out she has breast cancer. So the guy's hired him, Mr. Church, to cook for him, and it's his first few moments of dialogue that you're like, this is a very subdued Eddie Murphy, and he's really reaching into places that we're not used to. And it's like that throughout the whole film. He has it's basically, I read a review that said it was basically Eddie Murphy subduing every one of his natural tendencies in acting. And if the movie hadn't been so vanilla and predictable, I would have wanted to say, hey, check out Mr. Church. It's some of his best work. But even by the end of the movie, I think he was like, what did I do? Like, this is just it's so dramatic and so melodramatic.
Melodramatic, yeah.
Yeah, and not only
yeah.
that, but the story itself gets so, there's no point at all where you feel any sort of trepidation for anybody, because all the right things happen. And it just ends up being this very blah story that's unfortunate, because people will miss seeing Eddie Murphy do something that is so counter, and you actually see the depth of his acting ability,
Okay.
And so it was a weird experience. I was so excited. I was like, oh, this will be the thing that I get Paul with. And it's like, oh, no.
I guess not.
I wouldn't have you see this. Maybe I'll send you some clips of the.
See, now I regret not watching. Oh, where is it? Imagine That before coming in today, so that I could have pulled a similar thing on you.
yeah, not familiar with that one either. So
yeah.
2019 now, Paul.
Yes.
Dolomite is my name. Whew. I loved it.
So good.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing there is that I remember renting Dolomite to watch when I was in high school, when I was working at a movie theater. And, some guys, people would come to my house regularly to watch. We'd rent a weird, strange, random movie and watch it. And totally in the vein of what the hell did I just watch? Yeah. And Dolomite was one of those movies. And I am flat out telling you watching Dolomite was a memorable experience for me. Watching that was a memorable experience for me. And then to come back and be able to see Dolomite is my name. Fantastic. Just fantastic. Yeah. The interesting thing is that like Rudy Ray Moore is an absolute physical presence. Like he just owns a room, when he's on film. And Eddie Murphy is not a physical presence, but he's a presence. Yeah. So it's an interesting transformation in that regard. Like Eddie Murphy's actually almost too good of an actor to play Rudy Ray Moore because Rudy Ray Moore, the reason why you're buying into this ginormous guy is because he's ginormous and he's saying and doing these things that are just like insane. And this movie definitely had me on the Wikipedia looking deeper. Yeah, definitely looking deeper into the Rudy Ray Moore history. It's a great movie. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. I highly recommend it. I hope that people would watch Dolomite before actually watching the movie, quite frankly. And especially if you have no frame of reference on who Rudy Ray Moore is, which is going to be a pretty sizable population, I guess. But he's so good.
Yeah, he really is. It's some of his best work. And this is an example of a movie that sort of follows a trend of what he does throughout some of his career, which is to not only star in a movie but also produce it, in
Right.
some cases even write. And so the thing I love about Eddie Murphy's career, as I looked over it in preparation for this, is he's done it all. I don't know if he's directed. I'll have to look back and see, but this is a
no
guy.
feature, I don't think.
Yeah, this is a guy who really immerses himself in the experience of not just acting but also producing.
He
and
directed Harlem Nights.
Oh, that's
I
right.
have no idea.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So again, no one is going to be able to take away from him the success and notoriety he's gained over the years, and whatever his movie choices might be. I'm sure he's happy with where he's at, because of course, this year we saw a sequel to one of his biggest hits in his entire career, the release of Coming to America in 1988, which was a phenomenal film in terms of comedy. I remember that's one of those movies that I saw several times at the theater because I just found it so hilarious.
Sure.
This many years later, we're getting a sequel, which is some of what we see happening with some old movies like this, old movies. Listen to me, 1988.
There's a new venue that you can take things to. Although this one was supposed to come out in theaters.
Oh yeah.
Spoiler alert. That blows my mind because this, all right, I might be getting ahead of myself, but go ahead.
no, I think we're just about there. We're at the door of starting,
right.
Because as we look over the course of his career, when they first advertised that this movie was going to be made, I remember thinking to myself, I was trepidatious because I was like, okay, great, we're going to revisit the film. But then I was like, oh, these sequels rarely work. And I'm not talking about Eddie Murphy movies. I'm talking in general. Sequels to comedies aren't always that successful, or very rarely successful. So we get to Coming to America, and I'm going to be very interested to hear your thoughts because, Paul, I found myself disappointed. For me. And I've been reading what other people have been saying about it. And when I say other people, I'm talking to folks on social media, friends of mine, and so forth.
Sure.
And I don't know if my lens is different because I look at films from a particular perspective. I'm usually pretty good about the nostalgia being enough for me to be like, yeah, that was good. But this time around, I was like, it reminded me of how I felt. And I don't know how you feel about the first Anchorman movie, but it reminded me of how I felt after Anchorman 2. It was like we went back to the same well, and what was funny then isn't funny now.
Yeah.
And so that's where
she was dry.
Yeah. And they were still scraping to try to get the
right.
So I found myself disappointed because they tried to reignite some of the funny things from before, and then they made some weird decisions about the story that I was like, oh, that kind of bugs me. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it 15 years ago, this movie exactly as it is might have worked.
Yeah.
Today, it just doesn't work for me at all. It just doesn't. Here's my thing. Okay, so first of all, in the first 20 minutes, there is so much cringe. It's just like, ooh, like that's supposed to be a joke and it doesn't work as a joke, and ooh, that's supposed to be a joke and it's not funny, and I get that I'm supposed to be laughing, but I'm not. And
right.
Then you have him with 3 daughters, which are set up very well.
Yeah,
I have interesting characters upon meeting them, and then we just drop them.
Right.
Like it's just like, meh. He's got 3 daughters. Let's go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that we can bring in Leslie Jones and help me. Who's the uncle?
Oh gosh, Tracy Morgan.
Thank you. Let's go somewhere else so that we can bring Leslie Jones and Tracy Morgan into the movie. Which, not a bad idea because they're awesome in this.
Yep.
However, let's find a better way to do it. Like, there's got to be a way to work the daughters in, and I don't want to demean the actor who plays Eddie Murphy's illegitimate son in this, but the character just doesn't work for me at all, and he's driving the thing, and and the story behind the character doesn't work for me at all, and it's driving the thing, and quite frankly, there's a better story if you try to work in the daughters and work in Eddie Murphy, whose father changed the rules in order for him to marry who he wants, and now Eddie Murphy's not willing to change the rules to have his daughters. It's like, what the fuck? It's like that the movie is there for you, it's written itself, and instead we're doing this stupid, like, quite frankly, sexist shit, and it sucks, and it's not good.
I found it interesting because I think at some point someone had an epiphany, because there was that attempt in the barbershop scene the first time to sort of say, oh, but we're not supposed to joke like this anymore. That's not humor. And it's like, I'm sorry, I've already spent this much time with you feeling like this is really a reach and not going well in terms of what they decided was funny. Right. I'm glad you mentioned that, the guy who played the illegitimate son, I was so uncomfortable with that story. But you're right. There was some fun and good acting by Jermaine Fowler as Lavelle Johnson. Leslie Jones and Tracy Morgan were fantastic. I forget just how good Leslie Jones can be.
She's so good.
Yeah, and the Kiki Lane, who played the older daughter, again, you saw flashes of good work by the folks in this film. For me, if there was something I loved, was the throwback to seeing some of these folks on camera again. The fact that James Earl Jones can revisit this character and have some fun with it after the work he's done over the entirety of his career. John Amos. Listen, the McDowell stuff in the first film was some of my favorite. Yeah. And it's some of the funnier stuff in this movie.
For sure. Yeah. That what's his face? Louis Anderson. Louis Anderson shows up again.
Right.
What is Louis Anderson doing? It's so funny. It's really good.
One of the performances that for me was the most awesome, and I'm really curious to see her get more work, was Namzama Mbatha as Mirembe, the groomer. She's got some talent, and I'm looking forward to see what else comes of her work. But can we please, for a moment, talk Wesley Snipes? He was a big bright spot for me in this film. I don't know about you, but where has he been, and what has he been doing? Because
he was doing Dolomite too, because he was amazing in Dolomite. Right. My Name is Dolomite.
Yeah.
He is very good in this. The thing about Wesley Snipes is he now just does over the top crazy stuff, and it's great. And but we know his history. We know what's going on with Wesley Snipes.
Exactly.
So we know his situation. But kudos to Wesley Snipes for just coming in and absolutely out Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
See, this is an interesting thing, because you totally could have had Eddie Murphy play that role. The movie is set up for Eddie Murphy to be playing multiple roles. And I think it would have worked to have Eddie Murphy play that role.
Yeah.
But, that's fine.
I mean, and kudos to them for bringing up Wesley Snipes in, because, whatever his situation personally, he's got talent. I mean, he really does. Yeah. Can we talk for a moment about Arsenio Hall not caring enough to keep the accent through the entire movie? You catch that? I mean, it's just one of the many things I had problems with this movie. It's like, are you even trying, Simi? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So
the story just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I could forgive, honestly, if the story didn't add to the cringe factor, I was probably amused enough to have said, okay, but the story itself is just It's like you can throw me as much meat on a bone as you want, and there's no fixing this story. It's just there's no reason for it.
No, I agree. I will say that the part of the film that got me the closest to laughing, but it was so ridiculous, was the funeral scene and all of its parts, all of its bits and pieces. When we get In Vogue and Salt and Pepper, it's like, okay, I get where we're going with it. I mean, so there's some fun. And then, of course, I'm a huge Gladys Knight fan. And when she rewrites the words, to Midnight Train, I'm like, okay, fine. So there is that part of me that's like, okay, all right, was it worth it for this? Part of me says yes, but then it was done.
That was the first time in the movie where I was like, okay, I'm having fun again. I'm having fun.
Yeah, I agree.
And so.
I mean, it is what it is. We waited, it arrived, it landed, and it's getting mixed reviews. I've seen I've read articles that say they love it, and I've read articles that say it's bad.
Yep. I read somebody say, I know people are saying it's not good, but it was just fun for me, and I'm like, great. If you can have fun with that, fantastic. I could not.
There's something to be said for nostalgia. I think that for myself, it was just a letdown on a lot of levels. Many people will not like hearing me say that, but
too bad.
It is what it is. But don't take our word for it. Make sure you
watch it.
Watch it.
It's on
Prime.
Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime. You're a human being. You have Amazon Prime.
Then go explore some of Eddie Murphy's filmography. I mean,
they just dumped a whole bunch of stuff, Eddie Murphy stuff, on Amazon Prime, and there are things on there that are definitely worth exploring.
Oh yeah, and unlike past times, I was noticing that you can. It used to be that when a movie like this would come out, you would have to pay to watch the first one. Coming to America is available if you're a Prime member without extra cost, and so. Definitely catch both, because if you don't catch the first one, I don't know that this one is going to work for you.
Don't even bother.
Yeah, exactly.
So on any level, like it's not going to work on you at any level. So every single inside joke, and there are a lot of them.
A ton.
It is basically just one long inside joke with a horribly sexist plot line sewn into it.
Yeah. So here on Real to Real Talk, we have a 5 taco rating scale. You can add guac on top of 5 tacos if you feel like it's worth it. It breaks my heart because of what my expectations were. But Paul, I'm going to have to say for myself, this one barely gets to 2 tacos for me. It just, the nostalgia. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say the nostalgia factor, it hit on some marks for me. Wesley Snipes gets a whole taco just for himself, so I'm going to land at 2 tacos, but not much more.
See, I'm doing 1 taco and then giving it guac. I'm giving Leslie Jones, Tracy Morgan, and Wesley Snipes some guac because they deserve it.
They really do. They really do. They outshine.
And Morgan Freeman.
Yes. Oh man, it's moments like that saved this movie. Listen, when I don't laugh at Trevor Noah, something's wrong. Like that's sort of how I was looking at it.
No, that's true too. Yeah.
So,
like the concept of the Trevor Noah character was amazing, but
it's execution was All right. Well, they sure fit a whole lot into this film, so catch it on Amazon Prime and let us know what you think. You can do so by visiting us on Facebook and Instagram and leaving your thoughts about the movie and anything else there for us. If you are here watching on YouTube, we thank you. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and also click the notification bell so you know when the episodes land week to week, as well as giving us likes on episodes and revisiting past episodes to catch what you've missed. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Paul, after I know what you've watched, which was Coming to America. It's so weird. It's which one? Coming to America.
Coming to America.
I'm very curious as we get to what the hell did I just watch for this week. What did you watch?
Okay, so let's rewind back a little bit to 1985. A little bit before Coming to America, the original one, not Coming to America, but rather Coming to America. And there's a movie that you've definitely not heard of before that came out, and I hadn't heard of it either. But it's called Radioactive Dreams. And so what happens, it's Paul's favorite trope, which is a nuclear winter. So we have a nuclear war happens, and two kids at the time, we revisit the movie 15 years after 1986 when the nuclear war happens, where these two people who were kids at the time were brought into a bunker by their parents, and then, or actually grandfather and father. But anyway, they are ready to get out of the bunker. They just want to go out of the bunker, and their only understanding of the world, because for some reason not explained, they're left in there alone. So their only understanding of the world is through like 1940s film noir, 1940s and 50s film noir, and pulp books. You know, like, so the characters are very wittingly named Philip and Marlowe. Philip Marlowe, who is the classic Humphrey Bogart character from Maltese Falcon and The Big Sleep. So it's basically low budget 1985 post-apocalyptic movie, and the concept of this movie I absolutely love. I'm not even gonna kid with you. This is how I stumbled upon this one, is because I just was for some reason looking up like, oh, I remember what happened. It was at the time when I found the one hour after Year Zero or something, where it was like early 1960s post-apocalyptic movie. So I was like, oh, I'm going to just do a random search for apocalyptic movies, and this one was on there. And I love the concept of this. I love the concept of two people, you know, in modern times, whose only understanding of culture and everything is film noir movies. Like, that's fantastic. Great, I'm in. I love post-apocalyptic movies. Great, I'm in. And, you know, and make it all under the filter of music and things going on in the mid-'80s. Yeah, great, let's do it. I'm in. Yeah. Once again, in. And there are things to this movie that I unabashedly love, including the horrible songs. But they are so 1985 horrible songs that it's just like way too much synthesizer and like singing like this. Yeah, we're singing like this. You know, it's just like so much. But then it's low budget, so there's so much like they're like, and they have like roving biker gangs, and the biker gangs are all women, and they wear these shocking red wigs, and it's but they're wearing wigs. Like at one point, one of the characters grabs onto her hair and pulls off her wig, and she's like, oh, you know, because it's post-apocalyptic, so they've lost their hair, but they're wearing these shocking red wigs, and it's just like during that scene, like at one point, one of the characters unwittingly, you know, and it's like, it's supposed to be funny, like, so it is not, it's self-aware to the point where it understands it's supposed to be a comedy on a, you know, on a certain level. And but like at one point, like, so one of the characters accidentally sets their you know, their trailer on fire. They have like this big flatbed trailer, completely empty. Who knows why they have it? Except that it does have like some gas canisters, and where they got those, who knows? Right. And like, so they're having like, so one of the character that sets it on fire tries to go out and put out the fire, but then some of the biker chicks gets onto the flatbed thing, and they have a fight. The flatbed thing is no longer on fire, because obviously that would be dangerous for the actors, and they can't, you know. But then when the fight's over, the trailer gets detached and explodes, because again, it's on fire, and they destroy all their gasoline. And I mean, it's just roving gangs and, no complete lawlessness and, the absolute worst of humanity running everything under the guise of 1940s, 1950s film noir, with two ducks out of water, fish out of water. And I enjoyed it. In spite of myself, I enjoyed it. It's total crap, but I absolutely like. They have the rats that are in the sewer have been infected with the radiation, and so now they are ginormous rats. And because it's low budget, oh my god,
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, if you know anything about film noir.
Yeah.
And you enjoy 80s music and you liked I don't know what's it called, Buckaroo Banzai and movies like that in the 80s.
Man, you just took me back.
I highly recommend this if that's your wheelhouse, and it's a very small wheelhouse. But if that's your wheelhouse, definitely check it out. Like, if you're check all those boxes except one of them, especially like the film noir. If like film noir is not if you don't care for like Philip Marlowe movies, and if you don't care for black and white detective movies from the 40s and 50s, just skip it. I understand. You won't hurt my feelings. But all other things put aside, if you check all those boxes, wow.
Got it. Well,
radioactive dreams.
I'm curious about when you first started describing the premise. What was the movie with? I think it's Reese Witherspoon, but the guy who did all the Mummy movies.
Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser. Isn't there a movie where he ends up in a bunker for a certain amount of time and then he comes out of it? It's all the shenanigans of him.
I know one you're talking. Is it the one with Pauly Shore?
No, that's Encino Man.
Okay.
Golly, but it was literally as you were describing it at first. I thought I think I've seen that movie, not the one you were talking about, but shoot, now it's gonna bug me. I need his.
Hold on, let's find it. Let's find it. Yeah, you can bear with us for 1 second.
Yeah,
it'll be all right.
I have to know. You gotta go. You gotta go back.
Yeah. Well, for Brendan Fraser, it's all going back. Not Monkey Bone. That was horrible. No. Not Bedazzled. That was horrible.
Blast from the past. Blast from the past.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was right there. Like I was. Yep. Yeah. Blast from the past. I haven't seen that. Is it good? No.
It's cute. It's cute. He plays a guy who spends 30 some odd years.
35 years in a fallout shelter.
Yeah. And it's one of those movies that plays for the cute and fun of the premise, and it's enjoyable. It's Alicia
Silverstone, not Reese Witherspoon, by the way.
Thank you.
So, but it's got Christopher Walken, so I might have to watch this.
Yes, leave it at that. Yes, you have to see it if it's just for that. So,
what you need to do is get Susan to watch this one so that you guys can assign it to me.
I will. We might, and given the nature of the movie, we might even find out that she has seen it. So
that's plausible.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, you can catch every week the uniqueness of what Paul brings on his "What the hell did I just watch?" segments. Thank you, Paul, as always.
Dreams. This will make a good poster on the ad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great title. Also, all right. We'll have Susan finally saw back as soon as we get Susan finally back, and. But for now, we'll go ahead and get to this week's real-time rewind. Again, I use this segment to remind you of movies that are out there that if you haven't seen, you should. And if you have, you can revisit them. This month, we're talking about movies with solo characters in them and 127 hours. Not the most comfortable watch, but definitely a film in which there's only one character throughout the entirety of the film, or most of it. And so James Franco stars in a depiction of the and I tell you, these I have all of the information, and then my screen closes. But 127 Hours is actually written and produced by Danny Boyle, who brought us Slumdog Millionaire. He plays Aaron Ralston, who became trapped on a solo hiking trip. And it's the story of how he endures that experience and how he gets through it. Tough watch, but again, it fits the theme. So 127 Hours is my real-time rewind. Paul, I'm not sure. I know we've talked about your thoughts on James Franco, but did you catch this one by any chance? And if you didn't, that's okay.
I'm not going to either.
Okay.
Honestly, forcing me to watch this movie would be like what he went through. So I can't stand Franco. Like, just can't stand him.
I have to ask you then. I have to ask you then. When you saw Alien Covenant, I imagine.
Yes.
Okay, so you were probably okay with his less than 5 minute performance in the film.
Very much. I was so happy. I was so happy when I didn't have to go through the whole movie with him in it. Yes, genuinely, not even being facetious. Genuinely, like, yes, thank God.
I think someday I want to explore where this all originated.
Just Spider-Man, the first thing I ever saw him in. I mean, he is this generation's Kevin Costner. He just absolutely is. It's just, you are not watching him be somebody. You are watching him just be a slight variation of himself.
Gotcha.
And that drives me fucking nuts. I can't stand that. I can't stand it. Sometimes it works if your personality is one that like seems okay.
Yeah.
But Franco and Costner don't have personalities that can pull that off. They're very, like, so for Costner, it's very much like, this is my personality and I'm Kevin Costner and you will follow me on this movie. Why would I want to? You're boring. Right. And for Franco, it's just annoying. He strikes me as being really annoying. Yeah. And I've heard enough people say that he's actually really smart, and to say proof, like just something somewhere that shows that he has a personality that I would actually want to hang out with. Like, it drives me nuts that Seth Rogen and he are such good friends because I don't get it. Like, I get it because they were on that show whose name escapes me for the moment together. And so that's where their friendship would have, been fomented, so they have a history and stuff. Like, honestly, my favorite James Franco performance is This Is the End, because he's literally playing James Franco. Literally. And it's like, yes, this is my point. And I love that movie. I love that movie, and I love him in it because he's playing by, like, it's just like constantly, it's still just James Franco, and it's like great. And like, I don't know. And so, like, so that's it. That's my problem.
I get your comparison to Kevin Costner, but I will say Kevin Costner has the far better filmography overall.
Okay, sure.
In terms of,
I've seen more things with Kevin Costner than James Franco, and that will always be the case.
I'll settle for that.
Yeah.
All right.
Unless they find something for James Franco to do in the MCU, which thank God they're not going to do, because then I would watch him and I'll just be annoyed the entire time, but I'll still watch him.
But you'll watch, yeah. All right. Well, you can watch our episodes here on YouTube all the way back to, let's just say quite a few, but also you can listen to the audio versions on Podbean and on Spotify, anywhere you find your podcasts. And also here on YouTube, thank you so much for clicking subscribe if you have. If you haven't, please do so. And click that notification bell so you know when our episodes land week to week. Also, find us on Facebook and Instagram. You can see what shows we've done in the past and comment your thoughts on the topics that we talk about. And we want to know your thoughts on movies such as the ones that we are about to talk about. Actually, the one we're about to talk about in this week's real quick review. Paul, the U.S. versus Billie Holiday.
Okay.
Recently picked up a Golden Globe for Andra Day, who is the star of this film, playing Billie Holiday. This movie, very important in terms of so many different things. And I think it's added to that library of movies that have been coming out recently that are very much about social issues that need talking about. I'm going to go ahead and have you start us off.
Okay.
With this film.
So I think, interestingly, based on your intro to it, I'm going to say you and I probably had slightly different reactions to it because I liked it. I didn't love it.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
And I don't think this, because I don't think this it didn't commit. It did not commit to the social, the social importance of what's going on and the social importance of the song. And so you believe that this movie is going to be about Billie Holiday and her relationship with the song Strange Fruit. And it's not.
It doesn't.
It's just not. The first 10 minutes of it are, and then it pops up and the problem is you don't hear the song. She doesn't sing the song in the movie, at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half in.
Right.
Which if that hour to hour and a half were about that, would be amazing. It would be, it would make an impact, but it's not.
Yeah.
And it just ends up being a more modern telling of Lady Sings the Blues.
Right.
Which is okay, I guess.
But the setup was
not interested. I don't need that. That's not. Yeah. The problem is the setup. It doesn't set up. The movie doesn't set up itself up to be a retelling of a more, honest, modern look at the life of Billie Holiday.
Right.
So that
I found myself. Excited about what it could have been, you, because there was so much around it, right from the title cards at the beginning of the movie. But again, to your point of it not committing, I can't deny that the performance, but given by Andra is phenomenal.
Sure, great.
There's small performances in it that are also very very well done. Yes. But it wasn't what I was expecting based on all of the trailer and the talk and the movie's own first few minutes.
The title of the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
The title of the movie.
Yeah, and unfortunately, for all of the heinous things that were done to her by the government, I never felt like this could have been, and I hope I don't offend by saying this, so I'll be careful, but this could have been the story of so many different situations that have happened to people of color.
Yeah. And
I just felt like we fell short of what it could have been. We could have had what caused her to write. We know what caused her to write the song, but I would have loved to have seen an exploration of that. I would have loved to have seen more about the relationship with her father and how and the song itself, when it is finally played, it's haunting. I loved the pan to the audience and reactions, but it was such a small snippet of the film that it was okay, for what the story was supposed to be,
it lacked the emotional
punch.
heft.
Yeah, it lacked the
really
punch.
Did.
But some great performances in this film, and I wanted more, and it caused me to read. a whole lot of stuff.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I did do the deep dive into the Wikipedia after this one, but at the same time, I was doing it during, and that's not what you want.
Right.
Like, honestly,
Yeah,
that's just
point.
not what, like, you want to be doing the deep dive after the movie. You don't want to be doing the watching the movie and just like, okay, well, I'm just going to go look this up now, rather than just like, oh, I got to remember to look this up afterwards. And yeah, it's just, I'll be honest. I'm at a point in my movie viewing life where I am past needing to see the ravages that drugs do on a person's life in a movie.
Gotcha.
It's just not a topic that I enjoy exploring in movies. And it's an important topic. I don't want to belittle the topic at all. It's just not something that I personally want to explore in movies anymore, because I am beyond that stage in my life where it's a cautionary tale. And sure. I am, I don't know. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, I get it. I will be very curious to see how it does when it comes to nominations from the Academy, because sure. I have read articles that really, really laud the performance of Trevante Rhodes as Jimmy Fletcher in this film. And
again, another thing that's super underdeveloped.
Right. And that's where I enjoyed the performances. I was a little bit surprised at the talk of Best Actor type nomination, but I was like, if we had really gotten to know him better, perhaps. So,
and one of my problems with, honestly, the win for this one is that, like, Viola Davis is right there.
Right.
And in a better movie, and quite frankly, just a more impactful performance.
I agree. Yeah.
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, if you haven't seen it.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. And again, not to take anything away, but yeah, I was surprised at the result given the nominees, including Viola Davis, which I think, very much deserved the win. Yes. So if you haven't seen it, you can catch it on Hulu, The United States versus Billie Holiday.
It's worth a watch.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Worth a watch,
absolutely.
Sure.
Definitely. So we encourage you to do that. On the 5 taco scale, Paul, where would you land with this?
I hate to say I'm just going to go 3. Like, I'm just doing a standard 3 tacos. So
yeah, 3 tacos, definitely worth a watch.
I have a super short one, really quick.
Please.
So I spent the bucks for Raya and the Last Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the released on Disney Plus, the Disney animated movie. And visually, perhaps the best animated movie. Like Kubo. Before this, it would have been Kubo and the 3 strings or 2 strings. But now it's that, like, the visually, it is like, this takes animation and just ups the game 50 to 80%. The story is good, not super great, but it's trying to tap into our current political climate, and I get that, and to kind of do that for kids, I think it's important in that regard. I think it's a little, maybe for adults it becomes a little maybe simplistic, but it's good. Like, okay. I do recommend it for people. Check it out on Disney Plus. It's great for film, and the visually amazing.
What are they charging for the film at this point?
I think it's $30, $29.95 or something like that. Yeah.
They better
because the idea. Well, yeah. So that's the idea. The idea is that you're taking a family of 4, sure, and you're spending $40 at the movie theater, or you can stay home and spend $30.
Right.
And yeah.
Well, and speaking of that, this is where I disappoint myself. I haven't yet gone back to watch Mulan now that it's available, which I need to. But I am very curious about that movie you were talking about, because
Yeah, right.
I mean, from the animation standpoint, if it's that good, then I need to see it.
Phenomenal. Like, I'm not like, holy crap! I can't believe this is how good the animation is.
I think I'll spring for it for sure.
Yeah, it's so good.
All right. Well, you can catch it on Disney Plus, and then let us know what you think. It's been a fun conversation this week, Paul. We definitely miss Susan.
We'll be back with her next week. And by the way, we found out from her she has seen Blast from the Past.
Oh, so okay.
That might come up in future episodes for those of you who are keeping track of such things.
Speaking of, we do have movie assignments next week, Paul, and
That's true.
We're looking forward to sharing what we thought on the movies we've been assigned by one another.
Yes.
So it's going to be a fun time. So, Paul, as always, thank you for all that you bring, and I look forward to next week.
Absolutely, you too. Yeah,
Indeed.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sergio.
All right. Thanks to all of you who watch. We appreciate you very much. Don't forget, catch us here on YouTube week to week and find out what we're talking about movie-wise. Until then, though, remember, you're awesome. You're amazing. And the world's a better place because you are in it. We will see you next time on Real to Real Talk.
Yes.